Today I'm going to cover casting resins, the different types, and some characteristics about them. Welcome back to the shop. This is Zach over at NV Woodworks, and today I want to talk about casting resins. When I got into casting a little over a year ago, it took me a while to kind of figure out what are even my options, what can I use. And so when I got into it, I first started with polyester resin, and then I moved over to Alumalite. But since then, I've tried a couple different things, and I know a little bit more about what types of materials there are available that you can try and use for casting. So when I talk about casting, we're talking pen blanks. Usually that's what most people think of. Now I use it for bangle blanks, for bracelets. I make a metal core that I inlay with some of them with acrylics, and I also use it to be able to use different types of materials. Now you can make things like bowl blanks out of it. You can make rings out of this stuff. You can make earrings and pendants and all kinds of things that you could maybe turn. Platters, you could do all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I just want to get right to it. So first thing on the list is polyester resin. Now this is again the first thing that I tried. It's fairly cheap. It's a clear two-part resin similar to epoxy in use once you've mixed it all up and everything. You can color it, you can put pearly kind of swirly stuff in it. It'll pretty much adhere to anything you want to put in there. The issues that I have with it is the smell is really toxic, and like the first time I used it, we're talking 2 to 3 minutes, I'm getting dizzy and it wouldn't leave the shop forever. So they say to use a well ventilated area. Like frankly, you want to use a respirator, and you want it to be like whatever your ventilation is doing, it better clear the room of this stuff, or else I would suggest, frankly, I would use it outside so you don't have to worry about it. But pretty horrible smell, but you know, it turns fine. Some people say that this is a little bit brittle, it's chippy. I think that generally if you have sharp tools and you're running it at 3,000 RPMs, you should be fine with this stuff. The other thing is it's a slow setting type of resin, so you're talking like an overnight deal. Now that's another drawback for me. I don't like having to wait. So there's other alternatives that are quicker. They have their own drawbacks too, but anyway, that's something you can try. You can get this stuff at like Michael's, Hobby Lobby, anywhere, craft stores. But it's kind of fun. Give it a try. Be careful with the fumes, but it's pretty cool. You can even cast this stuff in a PVC pipe, and I mean, you're already round at that point. It makes things pretty simple. So it's pretty cool. Something to try if you want. Again, it's also kind of cheap. Next thing on the list is epoxy resin. This is West System. It's a marine epoxy. They use it for fiberglass setting and I think for like repairs and stuff in the boating industry. I use it as a slow setting glue. Wood glue dries, sets up so quick that if I have a fairly complex glue up, I'll just pull epoxy out and not mess with the glue, the wood glue. Now this is the resin can, and then this is the hardener. Now this one specifically, this number 206, I think they have 205 they call it fast setting hardener. Let me go and make sure about that. Yep, 205 is the fast setting hardener, and it's still way slower than wood glue. This is the slow setting hardener, and then there's a 207 that's a crystal clear hardener. This stuff, when it's cured, it's going to be yellow. So, I mean, like apple juice yellow. So, if you're trying to cast something and you need it to be like finish or see through it and be all nice, don't use this. Go get the 207. Now, epoxy doesn't have any of those issues with the smell and all that stuff. Generally, I would kind of classify both of these types of resins. They turn, as far as I'm concerned, about the same. It's the same type of material in the end. You just don't have the smell when you're when you're casting. And the only other thing is, I would say this stuff is way more expensive than polyester resin, and you're not going to walk into Home Depot and pick up West System epoxy either. So I get this stuff at Jamestown Distributors. So I like it, but I don't really use it. I have tried it, but I actually use something else called Alumalite that I find to be a little easier. Now, one of the things I was saying about this yellow hardener with the epoxy, for me, I'm going to color most of the stuff that I do, so I don't really care if it turns out yellow. So if you have this, give it a try and throw some trans tint in there and make a color out of it. You won't even notice the yellow. It may affect the color in the end a little bit. You might have to adjust how much you do or offset the yellow with something else, but it'll work just fine with the yellow as long as you're not going for a dead clear casting. So there's epoxy. Now the one that I use is Alumalite. It's a polyurethane resin. I would say that it's a slightly softer material. You don't get as much of the chip out. Again, I don't think that chip out's a problem if you know what you're doing and have sharp tools. However, this stuff definitely, I use it all the time and it doesn't chip out. So the other nice thing about Alumalite is it comes in clear, very similar in the end to these two, except for a little bit softer. But they also have something called white, which when it's cured, now this has some color in it, but the white part, that's what it looks like. It's a totally opaque resin in the end. So that's kind of cool because there's not too many of those types of things out there, and that's kind of the direction that I wanted to go with a lot of the stuff. So that's another reason why I use Alumalite. I wanted the opaque stuff. So Alumalite's pretty cool. However, it's a little bit more, I'd say it's probably about as expensive as the epoxy. The other problem is you have to use a pressure pot with it. Now, because of that problem, there's also it's also a benefit. This stuff cures. The white stuff will cure fully in like 20 minutes. I mean, I can start using this stuff easily in about 20, maybe 30 minutes. I'm talking turning it from casting it in the pot, pulling it out, cutting it up, and turning it. It's that quick. Now that's nice, but because it's set so quick, you get bubbles trapped in there easily. That's why you need to use a pressure pot with it. So the clear has a little bit longer open time, but even still, even if it's cold outside, right now it's hot, so this stuff's actually curing really quick for me. But even when it's cold, winter, this stuff, the clear even, I can turn it in probably 45 minutes, maybe an hour at the most, ready to go. So it's pretty cool. Now, those are the resins that I know of. Now there's one other category that I have no experience with, but I do know you can cast with it. It's a UV cure. So basically it uses the sunlight or UV rays to cure itself. Resin. Now some of them are polyester resins, and I think there's different categories of this stuff, but I haven't used it, but I think it's about the same as any of these other ones, but I'm guessing it's a little bit more expensive. Now, it cures you can literally take it out into the sun, or you can put it under a UV, like one of those high-intensity UV lights. So that's something else that if you want to look into, you can do. I don't really think it's necessary, but it's another option out there. So, aside from that, there's one other thing that I do know about, and this really goes with the opaque stuff. The only other opaque thing that I actually know of is polymer clay. Now, I have tried it and I've gotten terrible results. This is a pen blank. Now, it looks the same as the Alumalite would, the blue, but this stuff is so soft that it's like rubber almost. I think the problem is my baking, so it's like clay. You can roll it, knead it, turn it into whatever you want. You can stamp things into it. It gives you actually some advantages and allows you to do things that none of these liquid resins will even come close to allowing you to do. Lots of options with it. However, I think the thing is you have got to have a fairly reliable oven that is at it is at the, you got to know what temperature. I think this stuff is very susceptible to temperature issues, and I'm using one of those little toaster oven things that the temperature fluctuates greatly and it's never on, so the dial is nowhere near what it actually is. So if you want to use this stuff, this stuff, it's like Sculpey clay, and you can get this stuff at like Michael's and all that. It's something you can try, and see, there's not a lot of information about how to get good results that I've found, and I haven't used it. I think I might try it again sometime, but just to let you know, there is another option out there. So, as far as I know, I think that's about it. There's probably a couple other things that you could use, but generally these are the ones that most people are using out there that I've seen over the last year that I've been in this stuff. So I really enjoy casting. It's really given me quite a few more options in my woodworking and wood turning than I had before with just wood. It opens up possibilities that literally you can't do in just trying to use wood. Now, a couple examples here. This is a coffee bean blank. I just literally bought a bag of coffee beans and dumped it in a casting mold and poured some of this white Alumalite in it, and you got a coffee bean blank. People love it. It smells like coffee. Even when you're turning it, now if you don't like coffee, I wouldn't recommend that, but if you're making it for someone who does like coffee, they're going to love you. So, this is a pen blank that I made, and it uses sagebrush. I think I showed that earlier, but you know, one of the things that I really enjoy casting for, why I really like it, is it allows me to use a lot of the local materials that are around me and readily available and all that kind of stuff. But in Nevada, we're up by Tahoe. Now, most of the trees around here we're talking like pine. That's pretty much it. And I don't like using pine. So I don't incorporate local materials in my work generally. So because I don't really want to use pine. Now, not that I want to use sagebrush, but man, I'll tell you what, nobody else is putting sagebrush in pens. Mountain mahogany, you know, I can go out and just cut this stuff or find it on the ground, and even like things like this, even if this wasn't a weird wood, if you got broken, gnarly kind of, you know, whatever, this would be firewood maybe, you know, for most people. If you cast it, you get some amazing effects. This is mountain mahogany cast in red. So when I turn it back, you're gonna have red here, and then it's, you know, gonna be turned into wood, and it gives you, once you put it in the round form, it allows you to just what you get is amazing with some of this stuff. And frankly, these types of things where it's all cracked and gnarly, those are the best things you can do. Another thing you can do is you can, you know, this is a sticker that I just basically stuck on a pen tube. So you can use stickers. You can put metal. You know, like I see the steampunk watch pens. They put watch parts like gears and stuff, and they bend them around the tube, and then they just encapsulate it in a clear resin. So basically, the sky's the limit with this stuff. It allows you to do pretty much whatever the heck you want to do, and it's really not that expensive. The other thing is, if you're into pen turning and you buy acrylic blanks, man, and you're going to continue doing that, I would just make your own. There are a few that would be fairly difficult to make on your own, I think, and yeah, sometimes I buy blanks, but not much. You know, I got the stuff. Why would I need to pay someone else to make a square thing out of plastic for me? So I encourage you to get out there, try something. Be careful with the polyester resin, but there's nothing wrong with it. You know, you can try that. It's readily available. It's cheap. So that's a good starter. If you want to try other things, if you want to go into the opaque stuff where it's solids, you know, you're probably going to have to go with Alumalite. But I'll put links to where you can kind of get some of this stuff. I mean, you can get this at Hobby Lobby. I'll put a link to Jamestown Distributors. I think you can get this stuff at Woodcraft now, or Rockler. One of them's carrying it. And then Alumalite, you can get it at Amazon.com or at Alumalite.com also, but I find Amazon's already got my credit card, so I'll put links to that stuff in there. Now, you're going to need to get a pressure pot if you run Alumalite, so I'll probably do a video in the future covering this, but you got to kind of watch what you're doing and be careful with the pressure pots, but as far as I haven't had any issues, and it's pretty safe. So anyway, if you have any questions about casting or anything else, definitely either leave a question in the comments, or you can email me at zach@nvwoodworks.com. And yeah, so if you enjoyed this video and you want to see some more casting and turning and general woodworking and kind of experimenting in the wood shop type stuff, that's what I'm going to be producing in the future. So definitely subscribe to my channel, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.